ReleaseWire helps businesses connect with interested journalists and bloggers. Check out the link in the description to save 25% on your first press release.
Admiral, radar shows that we have liberals approaching at 3 o'clock, and libertarians at 9 o'clock, and conservatives at 6 o'clock. They're coming from every angle, every viewpoint. Oh, it's Political Radar with your hosts, Rhonda and Elliot.
Hey, all you political junkies, welcome to Political Radar, the best 30 minutes of unscripted and uncensored political talk you will hear all day. Episode 39 begins with a revelation. Did you know that China created a global warming hoax? Did you know that? Your potential presidential candidate told me
we
that.
have our socialist local activist, Shae Sortwell here. Did I say your name?
Shae Sortwell. Say it correctly, please.
I knew I said it wrong. And I'm like, how did I say that wrong? Yes.
Sortwell.
I'm sorry.
But
That's
I think
right.
I think we should address this, though. This was from last night. So China.
What was last night?
There was a debate last night.
No, there was not. There
was a
no
presidential debate, and China is apparently they've created a global warming.
I saw two people looking into the camera with a straight face saying, "I am going to spend all of your grandchildren's money."
Okay, well,
that's what I saw.
Okay, let's move on. Shae.
I saw Hillary look at the camera. Donald never really looked.
No, he didn't really look at all. He just sniffed at the camera. Shae Sortwell is here with us today. And Shae, you are the, let's say, I don't know, the architect of JimResign.com.
Yes.
Okay. Can you explain to us what that is and what's going on with that right now?
JimResign.com basically is a website that kind of follows the news story as it develops. We link to Green Bay Press Gazette articles, WBAY, WFRV, all the local stations, kind of touch on those. We're also linked to a Facebook group where we do some commentary on it. But mostly what we're doing is just a public service, letting people know what's going on. And then we're asking people if they agree with us to say, look, Jim needs to resign for the illegal activity that he did. And he needs to resign for the illegal activity that he did. And to go ahead and sign the petition, and we'll put that together.
So there's a petition.
Yes.
Along with this. So what is your plan? I mean, and what's the petition look like right now? How many names do you have? What are the numbers on that?
I didn't check today. The last time I looked, it was somewhere around 400 signatures we've gotten so far, is somewhere around 400. And it's continued to grow. It's continued to grow. Obviously, we had a big surge in the very beginning. That we got, I think 200 in the first 24 hours or so.
How many do you need for a recall?
For a recall?
Yeah.
Oh, it's 25% of whatever the last gubernatorial race was. If I remember correctly, that's roughly 8,500. But that's a recall petition. Is not the same as what we're doing right now. Recall petition, you would actually have to circulate paper copies and go from door to door saying, hey, do you want to recall Jim Schmitt? Right now, what we're hoping is we really don't want to go down that road. We really don't want to go down the road of the city council having to remove him. We don't want to go down the road of the Attorney General of Wisconsin removing him for malfeasance in office. We really don't want any of that. What we want is Jim Schmitt to say, look, I screwed up. I need to move on.
Do you think he's hearing you at all?
I think he's hearing me. I'm not sure he's liking it.
Well, you're not a very likable young man.
I'm very sweet.
So this site was registered in July 6th.
Okay.
So what's up with that? Because I didn't hear any of this until significantly after July 6th.
Just have my hand on the pulse of the city, I guess.
Or on the trigger.
On the trigger.
So you've actually had some I don't know, there's been some questions I've seen online. Why are you so interested in this? You don't even live in Green Bay at this point. So what is that?
It's true. Really what it comes down to is I don't think ethics are bound by geographical barriers. And, Jim Schmitt has done a lot of good things for the city. I've supported him in the past. I really helped him out a lot in the 2007 re-election that he had. And I really was greatly disappointed when I found this out. I started to learn of this stuff. Some of what I think many people, well, some people at least know, that he there's been questions about things that he's done. I had seen some of the evidence going back a year or more, and then I had learned that maybe it was coming to a head, and that the district attorney was finally actually going to do something on it, because obviously he had to do his research on it. But So yeah, that's why I just think that he needs to do the right thing. I'm still as you point out, I do live outside the city, still very closely associated with the city. As a matter of fact, I have a small farm and provide some goods to one of our stores here on Broadway.
But you're not a taxpayer.
Not a taxpayer within the city limits.
Okay. But you were at one point.
I was on city council too, obviously.
Okay. So, let's flash forward because, there's some things happening in the future. On October 5th, he's going to be in court.
Yes.
I think that will be an interesting day to see what happens. The council has already said they're going to be meeting as a whole, as a whole, correct?
Yes, it's called the Committee of the Whole. Basically, what that does is allow for because standard city practice is anything that comes before the full city council goes before committee first. And so one way to involve the entire council on a given issue before it comes before them on a regular meeting is to have a committee of the whole, and that could be requested by the president, which will be Tom DeWayne right now, and with enough signatures from the members of the.
So, do they have the votes to get him off the council or off the? I would say the chair, right? That's what they call him. He's the chair. The chair.
You're talking about the mayor?
Yeah. Or do they have the votes?
Probably.
Okay.
Probably.
And then what? Because that's what I really want to talk about. I mean, we've talked this to death. So, who else? Who is it going to be?
Well,
who's going to come in and be mayor?
The current ordinances, as they're written, would provide for Tom DeWayne as the council president to immediately fill that role. Now, after that, there appears to be some sort of leeway if they want to continue to do that, if they want to continue to allow him to serve out the remainder of the term, or if they want to call for a special election.
The council will decide that. The people of Green Bay do not decide that.
Well, but the people of Green Bay elected the council to make big decisions like this involving this, and obviously Tom DeWayne did get 47% of the vote, despite the fact that Jim outspent him 10-1 and raised money illegally to do it.
I think that's interesting though, because we had the county board situation with Alex Galt.
Okay,
and he came in a tight second, and we had a replacement that was not on the board appointed instead.
Yeah.
So what's to keep them from appointing somebody that's not even on council? Or
as far as appointing somebody, I don't believe there's anything in the ordinances or state statute that would allow that. As it's currently set up, if the mayor is not able to serve the full of his term, the council president fills that role as a kind of an interim. After that, he could theoretically be allowed to just simply continue that if they just didn't really take any action on it. Or they could choose possibly to hold a special election to fill out the remainder of the term. That's kind of up to the council what they want to do in that.
So I've heard a lot of rumblings of people that want to be in that position, that want that job.
I've heard of a few, yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think about someone who actually maybe has only lived in the city briefly? What do you think about that kind of a person wanting to be mayor of a city of the third largest city in the state of Wisconsin?
I believe it's the third, yeah.
Is he a full-blooded libertarian?
I have no idea.
Well, I mean, that's really...
And it's a nonpartisan office. So, but what do you think about that?
I think that's really up to the people of the city to decide who exactly they want to represent them.
No, I asked you what you think about that.
What I think about it? I think that if you are closely affiliated with the city, if people think that you are representing them properly, I have no particular issue with it. Now, other people may, and that's up to them to decide it at the ballot box. Obviously, that's what I'm doing right now is saying, look, there was an ethics violation. This is something that was done wrong. Someone needs to resign. After that, it's kind of open to the people of Green Bay who they want to continue to serve in that position.
Because I've been told 21 months ago that a guy named Chad Weininger was the one that was kind of driving this bus. So Chris Weary, Andy Nicholson, and Guy Zima were, I guess, to some degree, the ones that were delivering the message as if it was their issue. But it was this person behind the scenes that no one's hearing about. And who is this person, and why do we care, and why is his name popping out all the time?
Who Chad Weininger is? Chad Weininger is the formerly state representative from the 4th District, which before the redistricting had part of the city of Green Bay in it. He's also a former city clerk, and at one point, actually, he also was the mayor's chief of staff back in 2007, give or take. I'm not exactly sure the year. And I think, maybe he'd be interested in it, but I've also heard other names. I know, State Representative Eric Gingrich has expressed some interest in it. I've heard of a couple city council members that might have some interest.
Mm-hmm.
I've also heard of another community member that would be interested. So, I mean, the two big names I've heard right now, yeah, I guess it would be Chad Weininger and Eric Gingrich are the two big names that I've heard. But, who knows how that's going to mean. Maybe Pat Evans would jump back in there. I mean, he ran for mayor a couple of years ago.
And Chad Weininger would be the person that hasn't really lived in the city of Green Bay for quite a while. I mean, he lives here now, but he hasn't lived here in the past, really. I mean, he hasn't been a Green Bay taxpayer.
Actually, he's been a Green Bay taxpayer for a long, long time because he's owned a duplex in the city of Green Bay for a very long time.
But he hasn't lived here.
At times, I mean, when he was mayor's chief of staff there, then yeah, he had to move into the city in order to fill that role. Also, when he was city clerk, he was also living in the city. Where he's living exactly right now, honestly, I haven't asked the man. Mm-hmm. Maybe he's living in the city right now. Maybe he's not. I guess somebody would have to ask him.
But you have to be in order to run. So
yes, you have to be in order to run. You have to be a city resident. Yeah.
Okay. So Elliot.
Yes.
Aside from the libertarian candidate, I mean, let's talk about who are some of these people, because I think we are probably going to see this happen, where we're going to have our mayor is not going to be there. I believe that. I think the votes are there as well, and I think that that's what's going to happen. And I think it's a serious question, and we need to start thinking about that.
So I'm all about holding people accountable. I think that's
Sure.
important. However, I didn't jump in and make this website. So what is your actual intention with this? I mean, it can't just be accountability, because this seems like a lot to put into just accountability. So, like, which of these names that are floated about, like, which one do you want?
Well, of the names that are out there, I don't know, because I've heard, for instance, Andy Nicholson too is one of the candidates that possibly would do it. I'm pretty good friends with Andy.
Okay.
Obviously, I'm sure you guys both know I have worked for Chad in the past, so obviously I like him.
Okay.
I don't think Chris has expressed much interest in
Chris, as in Chris
Weary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he's expressed much interest this time around, but he did run a couple years ago. So, as far as my personal preference, I could support any of these guys. I think they've all been good servants of the city. As far as Eric Gingrich goes, obviously I ran against him as an independent for state assembly when I was still within the city of Green Bay. I have nothing particularly against the man on a personal standpoint. His policies are not really aligned with what I want as far as from a fiscal standpoint. He tends to fall obviously on the more liberal side and support more expenditures. But once again, that's still up to the people of Green Bay exactly what they want to do with that. I mean, if they want Eric Gingrich, well, they can vote for Eric Gingrich. If they want Chad Weininger, who's also served in the state assembly, I mean, got current and former state assemblymen. I mean, any of those would be good candidates.
I always find it interesting when when people support a candidate, they are willing to overlook some, a certain level of wrongdoing.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And when they're polar opposite, they think that's the worst thing ever, right? So, I mean, obviously you feel stronger about this than I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I just find it a little bit like, who is better? Who's going to do a better job than Mayor Schmitt is? You said before that you thought he did a lot of good things.
He did do a lot of good things. I think I disagree with a lot of stuff he did too, but
okay.
I think overall he's done some good work. But when you do something like that, when you take illegal contribution, thing is taking a contribution that's not fully legal. That happens all the time in campaign finance. People screw up. That's the way Mayor Schmitt has tried to portray this, is he screwed up in his campaign finances, and that happens all the time.
Sure.
The issue is that that's not what happened, because if it had simply been a screw up, what happens when a campaign gets too much of a donation from somebody, or they get record the name slightly wrong or whatever, what they do is they return it. They say, they call up Bill Smith and say, hey Bill, you gave me $1,050, you can only give me $1,040 for the city of Green Bay as running for mayor. So I'm going to have to return that, and you can write me a check for $1,040. That happens all the time. And the district attorney, because these kind of little screw-ups happen all the time, a district attorney is not going to go after a candidate simply because he finds a couple screw-ups, because it's going to happen. People are people. People are going to screw up. There has to be a pattern. And when the district attorney went through this, he saw a pattern of continuing not only screwing up in the first place, whether it was intentional or not, but then trying to cover up by changing the records. That's where you see intentionally breaking the law.
Okay. I mean, there might have been some of that, but honestly, if a mom or a dad writes a check for $2,000 and then he comes back and says, "Hey, this is too much," oh, well, put my son's name on it. Like, that doesn't sound too crazy to me. But
it's illegal.
Yeah. And he also had to give all his money to the education fund.
Yeah.
So
I him to help out the kids.
I feel like the punishment fit the crime. There was a little bit of, gray area against the rules types of things. The rules are a little bit arbitrary.
Well, actually, I would say though that that's not the punishment. See, when you take property illegally, that has to be returned, and then you pay a penalty. Just like if you go down the street and you rob rob the cannery, you have to return that stuff if you still have it.
This isn't robbery.
And then take.
This is mislabeling funds.
I would say it's certainly stealing an election.
But it's an election law issue. So moving on past Mayor Schmitt to the potential candidates. People we've mentioned.
Yeah.
Is there any idea of, do you think there's any possibility that any of these people have anything unethical lying around? Are we going to be in the same situation again in a year?
You never know. Honestly, you never know. Jim Schmitt for years did the right thing.
Okay, but we do know because there's some investigating happening right now.
Oh, those investigations, but with some of the city council members, yeah. Well,
some of the people that you named have active investigations happening.
Sure.
So why would we put them all? Why would we go through this again? Why are we going to do that to the city? Well, if you're not clean, you shouldn't be running.
True, but we don't actually know that they're not clean. 'Cause right now, those were accusations put out by Mayor Schmitt once he found out, because the city council members knew. The city council members have been kind of working on this for a year plus on some of these issues, and the mayor knew that, and there is a possibility that maybe it was kind of a retribution. Now, whether it is or not, who knows? Maybe they did do something, but I would find it hard to believe that if any of them did this in such a way that you would look at it and say, yes, he intentionally broke the law like Mayor Schmitt did. Could they possibly have screwed up in something? It's possible.
Can we find someone that knows how to do campaign finance and they can be mayor?
Well, I would tend to bet that both Eric Gingrich and Chad Weininger probably know campaign finance, because they had to do it at a whole lot higher level than any of the city council members did. So as far as from the campaign finance aspect of it, being able to, dot all your I's and cross all your T's, yeah, they probably know what they're doing as far as that goes.
Can we set the bar there? Can we start there?
As a matter of fact, when I was running against Eric Gingrich, I went through his campaign finance report and I found an issue and lodged a complaint on it, and he fixed it. But you know what? He fixed it legitimately, because there was a way to legitimately fix it, as opposed to what the mayor did, where he just falsified records.
So really, we need people that don't feel exceptional to be our mayor.
I'm sorry, what?
We need people who do not feel exceptional to be our mayor. We need someone who doesn't feel exceptional.
You need
to begin with.
You need somebody who just thinks that, they want to do a good job for the city of Green Bay, want to do a good job for the citizens. Whoever that is, they don't have to think overly highly of themselves in order to, there's a lot of stuff you need to do as mayor of Green Bay. You need, oversee a bunch of financial planning and things like that. So I really think that whoever is selected really needs to have a background in a financial aspect of it, working on budgets. I don't know how much. I don't know how much Eric Gingrich has in that. I don't think
we should
on the
get
finance
an
committee. Having an accounting background might be a good idea, but I'm not saying that's the only thing you need to do. You need to be able to track budgets. You go through the city budget. When I was on city council and we were working on that budget, I remember going through that budget line by line, and I couldn't even do it as much as the mayor could have done with with department heads and things and sitting with them. I went through that budget, and all the number of people were downplaying that and saying, "Oh, you're just finding $500 here and $200 here." But between me and Pat Buckley at the time was on the council, between the two of us all funding these things, we found $250,000, and the council passed that budget unanimously. People, hard left representatives like on the board, like Amy Kocha, to hard right conservatives like Andy Nicholson, everybody voted for that because we balanced the budget without cutting services. So I think somebody that has experience working on large budgets will be a very great benefit, so that he can present that without cutting services.
I actually think about this. I don't know. I think about the names that are out there.
Yeah,
and I think about if it's Chad Weidinger, Tom DeWayne, right?
And Eric Enrick.
Let's just say it's those two. So, the aldermen that have really been, the driving force in this, which would be Andy Nicholson, Chris Weary, and Guy Zima. Who are they going to campaign for? I think that's an interesting situation. Is it going to be Tom DeWayne, or is it going to be Chad Weidinger?
That would be interesting, because I'm not sure. Would obviously all three of those are pretty close with Tom DeWayne. Would they can't, but say at the same time, I don't know what Tom DeWayne would do. I mean, maybe Tom DeWayne would decide he wants to support Chad Weininger.
I don't think that's probably going to happen.
Could be.
So I think what I hope and what I think it will happen, I think it's going to become a lot more ugly. I think it's going to get really ugly, and I think it's going to be an interesting time to be living in the city. And I hope that people are thinking clearly. Obviously, this is going to be happening simultaneously as we have a really scary presidential election. But I think people they can't underestimate the amount of, I guess, information that's out there about what's happening. I think it's kind of quiet right now.
It is quiet right now. I'm hearing that there's going to be more coming.
There will be. I'm sure, again, when people see the mayor in the courtroom and see images of that, I think I'm actually not looking forward to seeing that. I think that makes me really kind of sad, and I'm not happy about that. I was a supporter, and I really don't want to see that image, but it's going to be out there and it's going to be everywhere. And I believe that there'll be people that will take that and run with it. Are you going to be one of those people?
Take it and run with the
image of him in the courtroom? It's coming next week.
I know it's coming next week. As far as running with it, I'm hoping.
I mean, that's a powerful image.
It is.
Where on the website would it go? Where would you put that?
Probably right at the top. I don't know.
Cover page.
Probably the cover page. Because that's what Green Bay is facing right now, and that really is a shame, and that's why if he loves the city of Green Bay, and I truly believe he does, the best thing for the city is to move on. I mean, yes, obviously the next week or so, you're going to see that. And there's no way around that. But, if he says, okay, I had my date, I had my time, I pled guilty, like I said I'm going to, and all this good stuff, and then he resigns, it's going to just fade. That aspect and then it's going to turn into, who are we going to elect next? Because that really would be a much better conversation to be having. Who should be leading these?
Can he run again? Can he run in a special election if he's, let's say he doesn't resign and he's voted off with this committee?
Sure.
Can he run?
Theoretically, the issue with that, of course, is the state law regarding misdemeanors that violate the public trust. And if that is the argument of the city council, and that's the reason why they're removing him, and obviously they haven't drafted a resolution saying the exact reason that they would do so at this point. But if that was the reason, he would face a very tough uphill battle. He would probably have to fight it in court, I imagine, if they say that that's why they're removing him.
Yeah, I mean, none of these other guys have misdemeanors.
Misdemeanors? I'm sure some of them might do. Obviously, Guy Zima had something way back in the day. But do they have something that violates the public trust? That's never been defined by the courts.
It's a ridiculous term.
Well, this is my own personal opinion. I'm not the Supreme Court of Wisconsin.
Yeah.
My own personal opinion on it is, does it relate to the job? Does it relate to the job of mayor?
But that should be up to the voters. Like that, if you were a Schmitt supporter, you would say that should be up to the voters. The voters decided, they knew some of these allegations going into the election. They're certainly going to know about them now.
They knew about the allegations.
That's up to the voters.
They knew about the allegations. What they didn't know is that the district attorney would say, yes, I'm charging him, and he's admitting guilt to them. That's a very different cry from, because as you pointed out before, Chris Weary.
That's how
guys,
settlements work.
some of these guys are being accused, but there's a far cry from being accused to being guilty.
But that's
being known guilty.
That's how settlements work. So the optics of being charged potentially with a felony and having to go to court for that, he settled. And you have to admit guilt then. That's just how it is.
And you always settle
Everyone
down.
knows that.
And what people also know is the only reason you settle is because you're trying to get out of a higher charge, which you can't get a higher charge than the Class A misdemeanor until you go into felony. Which means he's pleading down from felonies.
People have settlements all the time.
If you knew that you were innocent, wouldn't you just say I'm innocent?
Would you want to go fight in felony court? Like if those are your two options, and your attorney says, "Hey, let's just try to get this over with, and make it small," you're going to settle. Like that's what everybody does. If you have a lawsuit,
so no one ever pleads innocent.
Well, I mean, some people do. Stephen Avery did.
I mean, people do. So if they really believe they are, they plead that they're innocent.
Sure. I mean, that does happen, and then you get locked up for 20 years.
Well, that's true, and settling obviously is a way to try to mitigate the damage that was done. But you see, in a case like this, where all the violations are based on straight up documentation, there's not really something where there's a gray area of where you think you're going to be able to get off if you truly are innocent.
But intent is always an important factor, and the intent. I mean, is it a cover up to put a son's name down for a father's donation? I guess, but he got punished for that already. He has to forfeit.
No. He didn't get punished. He had to give away illegal funds. That's not being punished.
Well, all of the money wasn't illegal.
That's just having to give.
All of the money wasn't illegal.
We don't have evidence of how much was legal and not legal, which is why he had to empty his account.
Which is why you can't say that it was all illegal.
I didn't say it was all illegal. I'm sure there were funds, but
so that was a punishment.
Was it happening?
That was a punishment. You may think that it requires more punishment, but that was a punishment. Just like if somebody gets a DUI.
No, a punishment would be if he had to empty his bank account, not his campaign account. That would be a punishment.
Oh, boy, that's really splitting hairs, man.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So I really think we're going to see a huge primary. I think there's going to be a lot of people that line up for this job. What if you have like 3 friends on this? What are you going to do? Because I get the feeling you
we're talking to Shae. He doesn't have any friends.
No, I think you started a campaign. I mean, I'm sensing there's a campaign mode happening. So 3 people that you know and you respect. What are you going to do?
Well, I may support one personally. Obviously we'll have to see who jumps into that race. As far as the website goes, as far as the Facebook group goes, that's not going to support a specific candidate.
Okay.
And that has to be for a very particular reason. Because of campaign finance law. Mm-hmm. And see, I'm going to follow campaign finance law, unlike the mayor of Green Bay. And so campaign finance law says that this kind of stuff is okay. This is public information. This is letting people know what's going on. As soon as I start advocating for this kind of thing, yes, I still can do it to a point within certain financial limitations, but you're starting to skirt the line, and I prefer not to do that if I can. And so the website is simply... JimResign.com.
So providing negative information is okay, but providing positive information is not.
Yes, but not related to a campaign. This is not related to a campaign.
And there's money involved.
Now, once again, if this was, people have talked about the possibility of recall. Mm-hmm. I'm not pushing for that right now. I hope Jim will do the right thing. If he doesn't, then I hope the board will do the right thing and remove him. But if there did turn into some sort of recall, once again, my website could not get involved in that because that's a campaign. So, it's still negative, but, it's finance law can be kind of funny sometimes. But I went out of my way to be very careful about what I did, made some calls to the Government Accountability Board or whatever they're called now, and just make sure that I was doing the right thing. And I got direction from them as far as what I could do, how much I could spend, what I could, what everything was controlled in that. And I've been very careful with that.
So, I mean, I sense that you're ready for this. That there's something there.
There's something there.
Yeah,
I'm ready. I'm ready for the city of Green Bay to move on with different leadership. Yes. Mm-hmm. As we mentioned before, yes, I do have friends that I think might jump into the race. Andy Nicholson might jump in. Chad Weiniger.
Andy might
jump in.
want to actually, I mean, I've witnessed him tear packets open like 5 minutes before the meeting starts many times. He may want to not do that if he's going to be mayor.
Maybe he had another copy.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You get him via email too.
Yeah, no, I think it was the packet.
It could be.
Yeah, witnessed that quite a bit.
I seem to remember that happening once when I was on council that I recall, but
Well, I've gone to tons of meetings. I witnessed it a lot.
There's this thing. It's called email, and some people delete emails. And
30,000 of them.
And some people don't delete them and read the material. I don't know whether that's true or not. I mean, why wouldn't he read the emails first? Why would he open the packet?
Because he doesn't get the email version. He gets the paper copy.
How do you know that?
I just do.
Oh, okay. Well, all right.
I don't know.
Settled.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what he does.
I don't know. I just want to see somebody step in and do a smash up job. I don't want to just have someone show up and there you go.
Yeah, we don't.
We'll take you.
We don't want next man up. Like that feels wrong, and that's where like your enthusiasm confuses me.
Yeah.
Because I don't feel like we have a slam dunk candidate. I really do not. There's some good people that you listed, but it's a lateral move at best, and then it's tainted automatically.
Well, I don't know.
Because now we're going to have to audit their finances immediately after the election. We just will.
Well, I don't know. Have they been charged with anything by a district attorney?
It doesn't.
I don't think Eric. I don't think Eric or Chad have.
They got reported. They got reported, and then there was an investigation.
Oh, you're talking about the city council members.
This is going to happen again.
I was talking about the heavy hitters, Chad and Eric.
I am too. I'm talking about all of them. From now on, going forward for the next several years, we're going to have immediate accusations, immediate investigations.
Well, I would like to think that whoever's doing that
like
is going to be, their ducks in a row. They're going to be making sure everything is the
They're
right.
still going to have to waste their time going through an audit and having an investigation done on them, and they're going to be violated.
I don't know. I don't see that happening.
Why wouldn't it?
I think because I think this was orchestrated actually intentionally.
You have to have cause.
Yeah, and what was the initial cause? Because you seem to know way in advance.
The initial cause, there were several things that were brought up to me by Alderman Weary a while back. One of them that was not currently charged, and the district attorney still could if he decided to, was certain corporate contributions. And the illegal, there are ones that you could theoretically do if they were like sole proprietorships. If sole proprietorship wanted to donate, he could, because it's technically a business, but it's all his own money.
Right.
So, but ones from, say, like the Oneida Nation, corporate contributions like this. There were ones like that, and I saw some of the donations, because the campaign finance reports have always been public. You, me, Ron, anyone can request that anytime they want. They can look at campaign finance reports. That's public record. And so we saw some of those ones that raised red flags for us, and he said, well, there's something going on here. And that's when the district attorney it was requested that the district attorney would look into it more, because obviously with just the finance records, you don't know positively something's going on. What you know is it looks like there's something going on. That's what cause is under the law, is it looks like there might be something going on that justifies the district attorney in looking into it further.
Because they are not going to waste their time. They have a lot of other things to look at and deal with.
And like I said before, they have to find a pattern. One violation is not going to get the district attorney to do anything. And in the charges that he's brought here, he's only charging 3 times. And he said, the Green Bay Press Gazette quoted him as saying, look, there's a bunch of times I could have done it. He kind of chose a couple examples to charge him on. So that's once again getting back to the pattern of violation, the pattern of intent, not just he screwed up a couple times. Screwing up a couple times happens all the time. Having a pattern of it doesn't.
So a lot of this will be put to rest, obviously, next week to some degree, right? I mean, the court appearance, the council meets, we move forward one way or the other.
We hope so. We hope we move on after that.
Well, no, I actually think the city is going to become, it's going to be on fire. I think there's going to be, I think people are going to line up to run. I think you're going to have your groups of people behind them. I think it's going to be a very interesting time. And I think it could get really, I don't know. I feel like that's something that, to get away from the presidential politics, there's a lot of people very, very committed, very loyal, very invested in their city. And this is a big decision, as it should be.
Yes, very much so.
I mean, none of the names mentioned are bad people. We've had a lot of them.
But there will be people that will. I mean, it's already happening.
I think
I hear it all the time. People they're starting to line up behind certain people that they are hearing about. Mm-hmm. This matters to people a lot.
As long as whoever wins for mayor brings me to the Super Bowl, I'm actually good. It's all good because we're going to the Super Bowl this year.
Oh, okay.
We're out of time. So we are at Political Radar episode 39. If you'd like some show notes on Political Radar, go to politicalradar.com/39. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe on YouTube. You can see my beautiful shining face and that of our guests. And, this one too. She's on there sometimes too. They try to keep the camera off, I'm told, though. Mm-hmm. That's all I got. Anything else?
No, not at all. Thanks for coming on, Shae.
Thank you.
Thanks, Shae.
Thanks for listening to Political Radar. To ensure that you never miss an episode, subscribe on iTunes or your favorite podcast app. To stay up to date, visit politicalradar.com or connect with us on Facebook or Twitter.